Hello everybody and welcome to this. It's another video in the series on different forms of writing for AQA English Language Paper 2 Question 5. If you remember, in the last video we looked at what you need to do when you're writing an article, be that for a newspaper, a magazine or a website, and today we're going to look at the form of a letter. Now, letter writing is a bit of a lost art, and because of that it's not something that many students actually know how to do. So, I am 35 years old, and when I was your age, when I was 15 or 16, I used to write letters to my friends. Not friends who just lived down the road, but I had some friends around the country. We would write letters to each other. Letter writing was quite a sort of common thing. But today, particularly for young people, letter writing has almost completely disappeared. But you might be asked to write a letter in the exam, and if you are asked to write a letter, you've got to know what a letter has to look like. So here it is on the screen, and it comes from Mr. Bruff's Guide to GCSE English Language, so pick up a copy at mrbruff.com for the ebook, £3.99, or on Amazon, £6.99 for the paperback. The first thing is, when you're writing a letter, you need two addresses. You need your address on the right-hand side, so here we see my address, and then you need the address of the person that you're writing to here on the left hand side. Now, you might say two things here. You might say, I don't want to put my address in the letter, and you might say, I don't know the address of the person I'm supposed to write to. That's not important. You can make up the names and addresses and even job titles, because you can see in this example it's to Mr. Smith, the Chief Examiner. You can make all of it up. You just have to make sure that you use capital letters correctly. It's a very easy way that students drop some marks through messing up capital letters. But you can see for my address I've written 5 Banana Gate Road, and the Mr. Smith's address 15 GCSE Street. Of course, these are made up addresses. You leave a line under your address and you write today's date, the date you're writing the letter on. And then you have a formal beginning, which would be, dear, Mr. Smith, or whatever the name of the person you're writing to, if you know the name of the person you're writing to, or dear sir, madam, if you don't know who you're writing to. And then you indent the next line. You can see here there's a gap before you start writing your actual letter here. And, you just write your letter. Now, there's a lot of confusion sometimes about how do you end a letter. And it all comes down to this, basically. If you began with a name, so you actually know the person you're writing to, Mr. Smith, then you sign off with yours sincerely. But if you began with dear sir or madam, you sign off with yours faithfully. And then you'll sign your name, your signature here, and then under your signature you will print your name in capital letters, because nobody's going to be able to read this signature and know who you are. Most signatures are illegible. So you would write something like, J. McDonald, in brackets Miss, if you wanted to make it clear of your gender. So that's how you write a letter. Now, there's a couple of interesting things here, because a lot of people say, well, surely I don't need to write, I don't need to lay out my letter like this. I don't need to put my address on the right, their address on the left. That's unimportant. AQA English on their Twitter account did say, though, that it is important because it is part of the purpose of the writing. So the form of the writing, it's you're being asked to write a letter, you need to lay it out like a letter. So we looked at article in the last video, we're looking at letter here. You have to remember that pretty much the content of your writing, the ideas you have, I should say, will be very similar whether you're writing a letter, an article, a speech, an essay, because you're given a topic of a question. But this is about the form. And if you're asked to write a letter, you need to lay it out like this. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and thank you for watching.